record. Okay, and then for the people who are watching this in the replay app, you know, when it's not live, just so they know, this is my Thursday office hours. Look at these lovely people who came that have questions about the genetics lab. And so since I deleted the video that I made by myself with only minor involvement of my husband, we're just going to kind of walk through this together. So, and actually, I kind of like this better actually, because then if you guys have questions, you can ask them and I can answer them and it'll be useful. So, okay, so this is meant to be fun, right? But it's also meant to kind of help you get used to this idea of the fact that we have lots of different genes that control all different aspects of our bodies, right? And for many of those genes, there are 2 or more alleles. So who wants to remind me what an allele is? I don't, because it's recorded.
We gotta pull up the right
the genes that are on chromosomes, or is it? I'm getting confused. Is it something else?
Kind of.
Okay.
So
it's
don't
kind of confusing for me.
Don't be paranoid like, oh my God, I'm going to be wrong and it's going to be embarrassing. We're all learning. Nobody cares. Anybody want to add anything else? If not, that's okay.
Alternative version of a gene?
Okay, beautiful. So, yeah, so like different versions or different, what's the other word? I like versions, right? Different versions of a gene, right? So the ones we're looking at in this particular lab. So remember, there's gazillions, right, that are responsible for all different kinds of things in our bodies. But the ones we're looking at are these 10. Okay. And so what you're going to do, the purpose of this lab is for you to first think about your own phenotype and genotype. And then what you're going to do is you're going to make a baby with somebody. And so it's funny and hilarious and amusing and wonderful. Okay. So the first step is to kind of go through this list and decide what you have. Okay. So what is a phenotype and what is a genotype? Somebody give me some descriptions of those.
A phenotype is like a physical characteristic, right?
Okay.
And then a genotype is like characteristics of your genes, I think.
So good, right? So phenotype is, notice I'm using air quotes, the phenotype is what you see. It's not necessarily always visual, right? Some phenotypes. Some phenotypes aren't something that you can see, but it's always what characteristic is expressed, right? So it's the characteristic that you have. Whereas the genotype is what are the actual alleles that you have. So what are the different versions of the gene, okay? And then this also talks about the difference between homozygous and heterozygous. So what do those mean?
Homozygous is like the same. Hetero different.
What?
Gene?
Alleles. Right? Yeah. So if somebody is homozygous, that means they have 2 of the same allele. And if somebody's heterozygous, then they have
two different
alleles. Perfect. Right? And so, okay. So what you're going to do, the first step is to go through here, right? And write in your own stuff. The way that I think it makes the most sense to do it is to write in your phenotype first and then your genotype, just so that you don't, so that you're, what do I want to say? So you don't get ahead of yourself, I guess. So you don't confuse yourself. Okay. So we got to kind of look at our options up here and then we're going to fill in the blanks. Okay. So hair type, is your hair naturally curly, wavy, or straight? Personally, my hair is super straight. Right? So I'm going to write straight. And that's my phenotype because that's what you can see. Right? Okay. Widow's peak. Widow's peak is when you have a little point in your hairline, right? Which I don't have. See how my hairline is straight? Yeah. Okay. So what does it say? It says present or absent. I'm just going to write none because I don't have one. Okay. Absent, none, whatever. Okay. Number 3, eyebrows. Bushy is dominant over fine. Well, I don't like how thin my eyebrows are on the sides. So I'm going to say fine. I don't know. That's You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Does this make sense? Okay. And then what you want to do is you want to write in the genotype. And so when we are talking about genotypes, we're talking about letter combinations, right? Because the letters represent the different alleles. So if I go back up to here, right, and I'm looking at hair type, it says that the genotype when somebody has straight hair is 2 little c's. Little c, little c. And then it says for the widow's peak, because the widow's peak is a dominant characteristic, if you don't have one, that means you're homozygous recessive.
Got it.
Right? And then eyebrows, bushy is dominant over fine. So, okay. Now, I'm going to just skip ahead to one where I know I am heterozygous. So, okay. So I'm going to go to earlobes. So free versus attached earlobes. There's pictures of this in your book and the PowerPoint, right? But an attached earlobe, your ear looks like that. Like if this is the side of your head, it looks like a Muppet ear, but whatever. It's like Bert's ear. Okay. So this is a free lobe. This is an attached lobe. Okay. And so my earlobes are free, right? They're not directly, they got a dangle. They're a little dangly. Okay. So I'm going to put free next to that. Now, the reason I picked this one is notice that this whole idea of a free earlobe, there are 2 possible genotypes for that. You can either be homozygous dominant or you can be heterozygous. Whenever you have the choice like that, I want you to choose heterozygous because then things are more interesting. Okay? So if you don't know, pick that. Right? So those of you that have the long eyelashes, when you pick your genotype for your long eyelashes, you're going to write big L, little l. Right? If you've got brown eyes, you're going to pick big E, little e. Is that okay?
Yes.
Kelsey's got a wrinkled forehead.
Because it looks like it says if it's non-blue.
Non-blue, so that means brown or gray or like green.
But wouldn't you put
Anything other than blue.
little e
So you have blue eyes, yes?
or green? Yeah, whatever. Same
Green.
thing.
Are they like light green?
Yeah.
We can call them. We can. There you go. Okay, let's just call them. They go in the blue category then. Okay, because they're light in color. Really, I should probably change this to be like dark or light, right? So light green we'll call blue. So you're going to be 2 little e's. So I have like grayish green eyes too. So mine, I'm just whatever blue. So what is that? 2 little e's. Oh, I wrote it in the wrong place. E.
Blue eyebrows.
Right. Okay. Anyway, does this part make sense? I didn't do all of my stuff, but just it gives you an idea of like what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
Okay. Once your table is done, so you're going to do this all the way. And if you don't, oh, by the way, tongue rolling looks like this. So can you make a taco with your tongue? This is a really interesting characteristic because it is entirely based on whether or not you have a muscle that goes side to side in the bottom on the underside of your tongue. And not everybody has that muscle. And so people who can't roll their tongue, it doesn't matter how hard they try. They just sit there like this.
That's so weird.
Yeah, totally. I'm not going to make you guys do it because it looks funny when people are trying to roll their tongue, they can't. But if you can make a taco with your tongue, then you are a tongue roller. Okay. Anyway, I think the rest is probably fairly straightforward. Okay. So you're going to fill that in. So I'm glad I can make the tongue taco too, because otherwise, yes, I can. That would be hard for me to demonstrate. Okay. So I can roll my tongue into a U shape. So what do I write for my genotype?
Big R, big R?
Do I?
A big R, small R,
Why?
Oh.
so that they're heterozygous.
Because it doesn't matter. It could be this or this. You
Yeah.
want to pick the one that's heterozygous. So if there's a choice, you pick heterozygous. So that's why I picked big R, little r instead of two big R's.
Why?
Just to make it more interesting. Otherwise, it's boring when we do the activity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's literally the only reason, right? There's no like biological basis of that. It's just to make it more fun. Okay. Okay. Once you have your table filled out completely, you get out your popsicle sticks. Okay. Now, if you were doing this with somebody else, you want to write your initials on the, wait, I can hold my thing in front of it. Is that backwards? Whatever. You want to write your initials or your name or something on one end of the stick just so that you don't get your sticks confused with somebody else's. But if you're not doing this with somebody else, you don't necessarily need to do that. Okay. All right. So then what you're going to do is you're going to pull out of that baggie, you're going to pull 11 sticks. And so what you're going to do for each stick, for each of those characteristics, is going to become a stick, right? So this is my C stick, right? So there's my initials on the one side, and then there's a little C, and on the other side, see how I'm flipping it over? On the other side, it's another little C, right? Okay, now I circled the C. The reason that I did that, this is just something that I do, and the reason I do that is because if I'm writing on the stick, I can't tell the difference between a big C and a small C easily because they look the same. So I like to circle the lowercase letters when they're not super obvious. Yeah. So I'm going to do that with the W's too, because a small W in my handwriting looks the same as a big W, right? So you don't necessarily have to do this way, but you can, right? It just makes it easier to figure out what you're looking at. Okay, so I make one stick for each characteristic, right? So here's my stick for my C's, right? Let me find my Widow's Peak stick. Here's my Widow's Peak stick. There's the W on one side and the W on the other side. I got two little W's, so it's a little W on both sides. My eyebrow one is my B stick. So I got a B on one side, and then I turn it over, and I got a B on the other side, two little B's. Notice I didn't circle those because a little B looks different from a big B. So I didn't need to circle. Okay. Eyebrows. I didn't put it in my chart. What is my eyebrow situation? Oh, wait, that was eyebrows. Color of eyebrows is H. Hold on. Look at my sticks. So I made myself heterozygous for color of eyebrows, because they're about the same color as my hair. So I have a big H on one side. I have a little H on the other side of that stick. Okay. And then we got lashes. Those are L. I got short lashes. So I have a little L on one side and a little L on the other side. Okay. And then my eye color we're saying is blue. So I got little E, little E. Freckles, I'm assuming are F. Yes, they are. I get age spots. I don't get freckles though. Right? So because I am non-freckly, right? Absent, I have two little F's. Okay. And then lobes, we already did that one. That's U. So there's my big U, there's my small U. And then dimples. I don't have dimples, so I have a little D on each side. Little D, little D. Which one's next? Tongue rolling is the, oh wait, did I do something backwards? No, tongue rolling is R. So my big R and my little R, okay? Now, there is I still have another stick. Why do I have another stick? The other stick is going to be the stick for your sex chromosomes, okay? So we're working in the typical scenario where females have 2 X chromosomes and males have 1 X and 1 Y. I say typical because that's, the sort of standard thing. There are weird things that happen though sometimes, right? And it's a little more complicated than that actually. But we're just going to go with the kind of simple, straightforward, more typical situation. So if you're a girl, you're going to put an X on one side, an X on the other. If you're a boy, you're going to put an X on one side, a Y on the other. Okay. Then you have your sticks. Right? Sticks. How we doing so far? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Then, so I made a set of sticks for my husband too, so you can see what happens when you have sticks from 2 people. Okay. So this pile represents my egg. Right? So my egg has all of these different genes. And now this is only 11 different things. This isn't, there's hundreds of thousands of genes in our cells in real life. But these are my 11. And then these are the 11 of my husband. Right? And so I did his the same way, right? Each stick has a letter on each side. Yeah. Okay. So here's how you make a baby with somebody.
Okay.
This is very scandalous. Okay. Here's how you make a baby with somebody. You take your sticks and you drop them. So I'm gonna tilt you guys a little bit, right? So I'm dropping sticks. Okay. You can drop them better than that. I'm just trying not to make a mess. Right. And so the idea is that yes, darling.
I found the dumbest childish thing ever, and I love it.
Cool. I'm working with my students right now. I'll talk to you later. Okay, boo?
Okay, bye.
That was the 8-year-old. Okay, so when you drop your sticks, right, either one letter comes up or the other letter comes up, right, depending on how they land, and it's totally random, right? Like which side ends up is totally random, right? And so you drop your sticks, and you do it in a messy way, and then what I do, just so that I can, so it's easier for me to look at everything, is I go back and I put the sticks in order according to how they are up here, just so that I can find them easily. So notice how I'm not flipping them over, right? Sorry. Okay, this is really hard for me to do with the built-in camera, right? So I'm not flipping my sticks over, but I am just kind of moving them around so that they're readable. Yeah, do you see how I'm just kind of organizing them? Right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in, no, I don't want to switch to tablet mode. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in order. So it was C first, then W, then B, then H, then L, then E. And this part you only have to do twice, so, it's not too bad. Then F, then U, then D, then R, and then your X or X and Y, okay? So there's my sticks now. So see how I have them all organized? Can you guys see them?
Yeah.
Okay, right? So I just kind of organize them. They're upside down, but I think, hopefully you get the gist at least, yeah? Okay? So then what I'm going to do is, if I was doing this in person, I would just look at this and I'd fill out the table. But since you guys have to find a partner online, potentially, unless you want to do this with somebody at home, right? If you've got a significant other at home, you can make a baby with them. I gave you guys enough sticks so that you can make a set of sticks for your special someone. Okay. Assuming that someone is of the opposite sex. Okay. So you can do that at home, or you can, use each other in lab. Okay. And so in order to do this remotely, when you're away from other people, you want to take a picture, right? So I'm going to bust out my phone and I'm going to take a picture of.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you said we could pick people off the internet, does that mean we could literally just look at pictures of
No.
Oh no.
You're going to look at each other. Okay. Because you're not going to find pictures of people rolling their tongues on the internet. Okay? So you're going to take a picture. So let me show you the picture I took. You're not going to be able to see this, but I took a picture with my phone. Okay. And what I would do if I was one of you guys is I would post that picture in the discussion board for this, right? So that then somebody else, one of the guys in class, could have a baby with me. Okay. And you're going to do the dropping your sticks twice, because what you're going to do is you're going to make 2 babies.
That's a lot.
Okay. Yeah. So what am I doing? All right. So let's pretend that I made a kid with my husband, of all people. That's amazing. It's a revolutionary idea. Okay. So I dropped my sticks. I'm dropping his sticks, right? So let me just kind of lay his out so that I can figure it out. Or you're looking at the picture posted by one of your classmates, right? So either a real person or speak of the devil, he's calling me. Hey, I'm zooming with my students. What's up? Sorry. Bye. Bye. Sorry. Okay. Anyway. All right. So I'm getting his sticks. I'm pretending that I dropped them and I'm putting them in order. Or you're just looking at the picture from one of your classmates, right? So either way works. Doing this. Okay. There's the D. There's the R. Okay. So now I have, right now I'm looking at 2 sets. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write in which letter came up for each parent. Okay. So for me, the letter that came up for hair type was a little C. And then Whittle's Peak was a little W. And then B, H. This is why I organize them, so then I can just write the letters. E, F, big U, little d, little r. And then one of my X's came up, so I'm going to write the X there. Okay. Now, let's look at my husby's letters. So his also came up as a little C, a little W, B, H, L, E, F. Is that a big U or a small U? That's a big U too. D. This is creepily almost the same. And then his Y came up instead of his X. Okay. So what is the sex of our child that we created with sticks? Do we have a daughter or a son?
Son.
Daughter?
XY is,
Oh, hey boy.
okay.
My bad.
We do have a daughter in real life, but we also have a son, right? So this must be our son, okay? And so you're going to make up a name for your kid. That doesn't matter. It's just to be cute, okay? Okay. So now what we're going to do is now we want to figure out, what does our child look like? Okay. So the child's genotype is a combination of the 2 alleles from the 2 parents, right? So all you're doing in this column is you're just putting these 2 letters together. So we got 2 little C's, and then we got 2 little W's, and then our poor kid is, oh, okay. So we got 2 little H's, 2 little B's. For eyelashes, we have a big L and a small L. It's normally you write if there's a capital letter, you write it first. So it's kind of customary to write the big L and then the little L. But if you wrote them the other direction, it still says the same thing. So it doesn't really matter. Right. And then 2 little E's and 2 little F's and 2 big U's and 2 little D's and right. So I'm just combining by moving across the table. And then how am I going to figure out our child's phenotype? How am I going to do that?
By looking at the letters, and if it has a heterozygous, then that means what? Yeah, those.
Right. So I got to go back up here to the key, right? Yeah. So what? All right. So I'm scrolling. So 2 little C's meant straight hair, right? Yes, which is amazing because my husband has really wavy hair. So it would be nice if we had children with wavy hair, but no, my daughter inherited my hair. Okay, my son kind of is a little wavy. All right, Widow's Peak. So that I remember, because I've done this lab 8 million times, that means no widow's peak. And little b means fine eyebrows. And little h, homozygous little h, means light eyebrows. And the only reason I remember that is because I've done this lab a million times, right? But you're going to have to kind of go, yeah?
Family members for this?
Yeah, I mean, since it's not a real baby, sure.
Cool, good.
Right? I mean, we're not doing anything, okay, it's fine. All right? Just pretend, okay? Pretend it was, some random person off the street. Don't tell me it's your dad. I don't want to know that. Okay? All right? So then what you're going to do, or your brother, right? So then what you're going to do is you're going to draw, this is my favorite part, draw a picture of your beautiful child. And no, it doesn't have to be good. It's mostly just to entertain me. Okay? Then you're going to do that again. So it should be the separate time. It should be a separate stick drop. And it should be a different other parent. Okay? So since I already had a baby with my husband, right? For this lab, now I need to find a picture of sticks from one of you guys, literally one of the guys, right? On the discussion board. Yes? Okay. And so I'm going to drop my sticks again, and they should come up, most likely they'll come up with a slightly different, which letter comes up. Okay. So I'll fill that column in, and then I'll copy a picture that one of the fellas posts, do the whole thing. And then there's a couple questions.
So do we make 11 sticks per person, like for ourselves, and then for each person that we use?
So if you are only using the data from your classmates, you only need to make 11 sticks for yourself. And then you just are going to drop your sticks twice and take 2 pictures, right? So like Kelsey will be Kelsey 1 and Kelsey 2. Carly, it'll be Carly 1 and Carly 2. Yeah? So
Okay.
you're just going to drop your sticks twice, right? And then you're going to post them. And then the fellas are going to use your pictures, right? And then Steve's going to do the same thing. Steve's going to make his set of sticks, and he's going to drop them twice, and he's going to post the pictures. And then, and he's going to write one of them, he's going to call Steve 1, and one of them he's going to call Steve 2, right? And then, Kelsey, when she's, deciding who she wants to have babies with, she's like, I'm just going to pick the first guy that I see on lab. And okay, that happens to be Steve. So I'm going to pick Steve's second picture, and he's going to be one of the baby daddies, right? And then, if you're using a baby daddy from home, you pick him, right? So you only need to use 11 sticks. If you want to make babies with somebody at home, then you can use another 11 sticks for that person.
Okay.
Okay. Is that all? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I think it'll
And
be
then-
easier to do it on the discussion. So is it just the standard discussion or the discussion for the lab?
Hold up. I'll show you. It's the
Okay.
lab discussion. So it's, wait.
All right.
Wait. Let me show you where it is so we can visualize it. Okay, so it's in our week 2 module. Did I not? Oh, wait. Did I make one? I did. Where did I put
Yeah,
it?
it's in there.
There it is. So there's the discussion thread to share your pictures.
Okay. Will enough people see it by the time that it's due so we can get the work done and turn it in?
God, I hope so.
Well, so that's why I
Right?
wanted to
So
see-
maybe what we'll do is it's not due till tomorrow night.
but we
I
also
was-
have tests.
I was like living under this fantasy that enough people would do it far enough in advance that there would be stuff there. And the rate limiting step here isn't going to be females, because of the people in this class, the majority of you are female. But there's only like 3 or 4 guys. So maybe what I'll do is I'll post 2 pictures of my husband's sticks.
Okay.
So that if you need to, ladies, right? And so, like, for example, also, ladies, if one of you is making a baby with a male at home, you can feel free to share pictures of their sticks too if you want to help out your female classmates.
Okay.
Okay, just so we have enough to to deal with. So in fact, what I'll do is I'll post up 2 pictures of my sticks and I'll post 2 pictures of my husband's sticks just to be like backup.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. And then that way, you know, that way you can at least get your lab done regardless of, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to finish everything by today so I can study
Right.
tomorrow.
I know. Well, that's the other thing too, is like, it's like, I don't want to be doing this when I'm trying to like, you know, get that exam done, which if you guys want to talk about that, we should talk about that too. But
Oh, not even tomorrow. Today's already Thursday.
yes, I know.
So scary.
Okay. So how do we feel about this lab? Do we feel good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm going to stop recording because, yes, because I'm going to post this.
I have some questions about the study guide.